All right, so the future of retail might look eerily similar to the past. In some cases, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or even 200 years ago. I recently wrote an article for Placer AI's The Anchor newsletter, and it talks about back to the future of retail, why technology is bringing retail full circle. So let me share the article. So this is the Anchor, which is the Placer AI newsletter, and I'll read it to you, but then I'll stop and talk a little bit about the concepts. The return of the milkman. If you grew up in the 1980s or 1990s, the idea of the milkman was more folklore than lived experience. You saw it in cartoons or black and white sitcoms, a man in a uniform carrying glass bottles to a doorstep. It felt like a relic of a bygone era. Surely it would never return. Fast forward to today, and not only is milk back on the doorstep, but so is everything else in your refrigerator. Technology has made it seamless to order groceries, household essentials, and even ready-to-cook meals delivered daily with a few taps on your phone. The milkman is back. He just drives an Instacart branded Prius or an Amazon Fresh van. This isn't nostalgia, it's a cycle. Technology often appears to propel us forward, but in reality, it bends us back to practices we once thought obsolete. The form changes, but the function remains strikingly similar. Take grocery delivery. In the 1950s, home delivery was a necessity. Fewer households had multiple cars, and local dairies were tightly woven into community life. Today, we have more cars than ever, but also less time. Digital platforms fill the gap, mirroring the personal convenience of the past while scaling it through logistics and data. And here's a graph that Placer put together on e-commerce distribution centers. See consistent year-over-year visit growth. You can see that the growth is somewhere between 1% and off the charts 5% year over year. And so I thought about it because I am a history buff. I love watching history and learning about history. And I do remember growing up looking at these cartoons. And then when I got things delivered to me, like milk and other groceries just in the last year, it just made me think like, gosh, this really reminds me of those 1950s sitcoms. And then I thought to myself, if it applies to the milkman, what else could it apply to? So that's really the genesis of why I created this idea for the news article. And if you think about it, the milkman isn't delivering in glass bottles, but it is delivering bags of perishables and it's delivering bags of food. And who knows, maybe the glass bottle will come back. I mean, I don't think all of this single-use reusable plastic is probably good for us in the long run. And I would actually prefer it to be the glass bottle that might be recyclable and reusable. Maybe it's brought to a center where they clean it out very good, sterilize it, make sure it's got no germs or anything, and fill it back up with milk or with whatever. What's big today? Maybe with smoothies or maybe with Greek yogurt, something like that. And if you think about it, why was there the milkman back then? Like what propelled it? And it was out of convenience and it was also out of necessity. And what propels the Amazon delivery today? It's also out of convenience and it's also out of necessity in a lot of cases. The next one up is the supermarket as a general store. Another example comes from the general store. In the 1920s, the shopping meant telling an attendant what you wanted, who then gathered items from the back. It wasn't until the early 1900s that self-service emerged, with baskets, aisles, and eventually barcodes. Now we find ourselves swinging back to the buy online, pick up in store, BOPIS, and curbside services that mimic that early model. Customers order in advance, then pick up a nearby packed bag from the counter, and the shopper no longer roams the aisles. The retailer does it for them. And this is borne out by data. Placer AI data on Target, Walmart, and Kroger shows spikes in short duration visits. Customers spending less than 10 minutes inside. That is the digital general store in action. Efficient, pre-bundled, and familiar in its services, though powered by algorithms instead of store clerks. So you can see that the short visit means that if you go to Walmart and you go to Target and you didn't order beforehand, you're probably perusing the aisles for at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. So if you're only there for 10 minutes, it's likely you went in to pick something up at the counter and left. And so I think this is a very clever way for Placer AI to try to determine if this is a buy online, pick up in store situation. And I think that back in the day, why was it necessary at the general store? Number one, they didn't really have inventory controls or a point of sale system. And also probably theft was kind of a thing back then because there's no cameras, there's no ways of, tracking what was stolen. I mean, it's sad to say, but we kind of have an organized retail crime situation today where if you go into some CVS's or you go into some Walmarts or Walgreens, I mean, everything's behind a locked case. It's essentially a counter. So if you wanted to get a bunch of stuff, you have to signal down the store clerk, and then they're coming and opening up the cases and getting you your stuff. I mean, it is not good at all. And so you see a lot of this kind of turning back on itself a little bit. But it's important to know that the main reason or the importance of the retail store is that last mile. I mean, it is the closest physical location between the end customer and the merchandise. And so you can see here, Walmart back in 2019, 11.4% of their visits were short term or 10 minutes or less. And that jumped up to 14% in 2024. For Target, that was 12.1% in 2019, and that's jumped up to 15% in 25. At Kroger, it was 19% in 2019, and that jumped up to 20%. So there's definitely some movement there. And, these stores are moving billions of dollars of merchandise. So 1 or 2% does mean, millions of dollars that are being bought online and picked up in store. The next one up is urban planning, autonomous vehicles, and retail. Urban planning, too, is entering a similar loop. America's post-war suburbs were built for cars. Seas of parking lots, wide arteries, and drive-through convenience. Yet when you walk in the old towns of Europe, San Sebastian, Florence, Prague, the scale is human, not automotive. Streets are narrow, plazas are alive, and walkable is the default. Autonomous vehicles may bend us back towards the human-centric design. If fewer people need to own cars or if vehicles can drop off passengers then disappear into shared fleets, parking loses its primacy. The city grid can prioritize people again. For retail, this shift is profound. Shopping centers that once maximized asphalt for parking may repurpose land for dining, green space, or entertainment. Placer AI's visitation metrics already show the power of experience-first environments. Centers with strong dining and social elements draw visitors who stay longer and come more often. And here is Placer's data backing this up. You have this pickleball facility that opened November 2024, and it really helped drive visits to this mall in Massachusetts. And you can see that the opening was right here, and everything before the opening, you're comping down negative quite a bit, double digit. And then everything after it, you're comping up positive double digit. So it's a huge difference. And look, think about it. I'm a big fan of Europe. I love traveling. And when you go to Europe, a lot of it was constructed before the automobile was even invented. So basically, it was for pedestrians, maybe the occasional horse if you're really wealthy. And over here in the United States, a lot of the buildings and streets that we have were developed after the automobile. So it's very natural that we just are kind of built around being spread out and having automobiles. But those autonomous vehicles, if you're getting in a Waymo or a Tesla, full self-drive, robo-taxis, they say that private car ownership might be a thing of the past. And if that's the case, number one, people will save a lot of money and a lot of time. And then number two, I think that the shopping centers themselves can really start integrating and connecting deeper into the community. Without that sea of parking lot, I mean, you're really in the mix. It's kind of like if you go to Barcelona or, as I mentioned, San Sebastian, I think that could happen. And, what will probably be is that I'm guessing we have a lot of land in the United States. Maybe they'll just build a city of the future somewhere and just kind of show people how it's done. And that can be the template for other cities to follow. Next one is One-Room Schoolhouse at scale. So education is another domain where technology is looping us back. A century ago, one-room schoolhouses educated students ages 6 to 16 under a single teacher, with individualized pacing as much as possible. Then industrialized schooling standardized the process, grade levels, subject blocks, and centralized curricula. Artificial intelligence could return us to the one-room model, but at scale. A teacher might become less of a lecturer and more of a coach in learning. AI tutors can adapt to each child's needs while the teacher provides human guidance, empathy, and context. It's both cutting edge and old fashioned. Personal learning, locally grounded, supported by technology rather than limited by it. Look, I know I try to learn a lot of stuff on my own, and where do I go? I go to YouTube, I go to Google, and now I go to Gemini or ChatGPT, right? And a lot of people like learning that way because not everyone learns at the same speed, and that's especially true for kids. And if you have some kids that are just slower at learning and they feel like they're falling behind because they're not keeping up with the other kids, maybe it's just that they're biologically, you know, that's not their time to really learn it. Maybe they just have to learn a little bit slower for that year or two, and maybe they'll catch up later. Not everything happens in a straight line, right? And so I think that this is going to be really, really good. And I think that if teachers can just teach how to think and not what to think, and let AI help pace and answer questions, and then have the teacher just support and help and encourage the learning, I think that this can be a monumental shift in how people learn. And look, back in the day in the 1920s, right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, there's like the old schoolhouse, and it was one room and it taught all the kids from K to 12, right? So it's happened in the past. And I think that those kind of pods or that kind of environment will be something that might come back in the future. Global commerce and authenticity. Perhaps the most intriguing cycle will be around authenticity. Global commerce has delivered incredible convenience, but also flattening the experience. Walk down a high street in London, Sao Paulo, or Bangkok, and you'll find the same Starbucks, H&M, and McDonald's. Even shops that feel local often sell merchandise sourced from the same global factories. Authenticity has become scarce, and scarcity, as any economist will tell you, creates value. Placer AI's data often highlights how unique local experiences can outperform national chains. Look at the night markets in Asia, where a single fried chicken vendor with 50 years tradition can attract lines that rival global QSR brands, or US examples like Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Joe's Pizza in New York, or even entertainment-focused Casa Bonita in Lakewood, Colorado, where one location is enough to generate pilgrimage-level demand. And Placer put together this chart to show Casa Bonita's unique restaurant year-over-year changes in visits. So it's, in some cases, it was a 71% increase from the prior year. Some cases it's 25, but I mean, these are gigantic numbers. I think any business would be happy with a 50% increase year over year in monthly visits, right? This is crazy. And that's where I'm getting at. You know, I like to travel, like I mentioned. I go to a lot of the tourist spots. I go to a lot of the off the beaten path spots. And, you know, you do see that Starbucks pretty much everywhere. And you are seeking out what it is to really have a cafe experience in Italy, or to have that bakery experience in France, or to have that noodle experience in Taipei, Taiwan. And I think that cookie cutter is out of fashion, maybe. And people, you know, liked it before because cookie cutter meant that there are some quality guarantees. They knew what they were to expect, and it just was something familiar. But I think that nowadays, you know, you got Yelp, you got Google reviews. I mean, there's some quality assurances built into the social fabric of our society. And I think that it's those unique places that you will go on a pilgrimage to. Look, when I go to New Orleans, I go to Central Grocery Mart to get a muffaletta. That's a pilgrimage. When I go to Chicago, I go out of my way to go get my deep dish pizza at Lou Malnati's. And if I go to San Francisco, there's this Chinese restaurant in the city. I forget the name, but my sister takes me there and I love going there. So I think it is a thing. A hyper local lens. The lesson for retail landlords is clear. The future is not only about digital convenience, but also about curating hyper local authenticity. A shopping center that balances national anchors with unique regional tenants can capture both predictability and excitement. Both Placer.ai location analytics underscore this trend. Centers with a strong mix of only here brands often see visitation and longer dwell times. Customers aren't just coming for the errands. They're coming for identity and discovery. So here's a chart on Ponce City Market. Atlanta, Georgia outperforms nearby shopping centers in performance and dwell time. So the average person spends 71 minutes at Ponce City Markets, but the shopping centers in Atlanta, they're spending 45 minutes. So they're spending like 30-40% more time at this Ponce City Market. And so they're there, eating, buying stuff, and that's what you're looking for. I think that, these brands have their advantages, but then these local authentic experience are hard to replicate. Brands that cater to local tastes are also succeeding, driving loyalty and repeat business. Barnes & Noble, for example, has made a remarkable comeback with a strategy focused on local curation and community connection. Eschewing the cookie cutter feel of many national chains, store managers now have the freedom to shape selections around the neighborhood interests, from regional authors to niche genres, creating spaces that feel personal rather than programmed in an age dominated by algorithms. This human touch has become a competitive advantage. And here with Placer.ai, you see a little bit of data from 2025, how their sales year over year are up tremendously. I mean, you're looking at mid to high teens year over year. And this is Barnes & Noble. These are physical books. I mean, look, you got loyal visitors, 15% of loyal visitors. So they're coming back over and over again in 2025 versus 13% in 2019. So if Barnes & Noble, which a lot of people wrote them off and said that they're going to be dead, probably similar to Office Depot, right? If they're able to do this, 16.9%, 22% year over year visitation, I think that that's something to pay attention to. The future of shopping centers. So what does all this mean for the future of shopping centers? It means history is not linear. Technology doesn't only push us forward, it often bends us back to models we once knew, reshaped to fit today's context. The Milkman is now a grocery delivery app. The General Store clerk is now BOPIS. The European Plaza is reborn through autonomous vehicles. The One-Room Schoolhouse reappears through AI tutors, and authenticity, once assumed, now rare, is becoming the most valuable commodity in commerce. As landlords and investors, the opportunity is to recognize these patterns early. Instead of asking what's new, we might ask what's old that technology will make new again. Where are people choosing speed over browsing? Where are they trading scale for authenticity? Where are they staying longer because the environment is built for people and not cars? These are not just data points, they are clues to the future, a future that looks surprisingly familiar. So for more info, go to Placer's website. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. This is something I've actually written about a few times now, just on my own. It's just that Placer reached out and wanted to know if I wanted to guest author for them on this newsletter. And I said, absolutely. I got something for you that no one else is talking about. And here it is. So what do you think? Let me know if there's other trends that you think are going to come back. This is a topic that I think is really cool, and hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. YouTube, Chen CRE, really trying to build my channel. It's a micro channel right now. I think I'm at 300 subscribers. So if you can get it up to 301, that'd be great. And, great shopping center content on there. Talk to you later.